New technology will improve the relationship between accountants and their clients in some very interesting and positive ways. The infrastructure, as long as it's secure and reliable and allows data to be managed in a safe way, will allow for an advisor relationship to grow.
Going back probably about 7 or 8 years ago now, we decided to move to what we call the go-to firm strategy, and that meant that we built a lot of the advisory services we now have, because we could see a gap both locally and also looking forward for what clients would want. And as the digital wave came stronger, the compliance work will get more automated, but there's also then the opportunity to do more with that data.
If you're summarising a bank statement, there is only ever going to be one answer, because that's very matter of fact. And if there's a piece of software that can help do that quicker, you're not losing value in that side of things. Whereas the actual discussing the results and planning for the future is where the value can be added. So we've been able to shift some of our resource from the processing element, and being very blunt, if a piece of software can do that quicker and as efficiently, we've been able to take staff from that and then utilise them for the stuff that's of far more value.
We're probably spending a similar amount of time with each client, but the nature of the time that we spend with them has shifted. So if we look at a receipt capturing app like Dex Prepare, for example, we now have quite a significant proportion of our clients who use that, and we have supplier rules set up to help certain items to be published into Xero automatically, so there's very little manual intervention required. But that doesn't mean we spend less time on the client. It means that what we are looking at is at a different level, and we're able to provide a different level of service and have different conversations. So our focus now is much more around those touch points with our clients, and trying to make sure that we have regular contact with them, and we can go through the questions that they've got and concerns and projections and all of those good things, rather than just saying we've processed 87 purchase invoices for you this time. It's a different level of conversation.
A lot of business owners work in the business rather than on the business, and we want to work with them on the business to help them achieve their financial objectives, personal objectives, and just looking at what that means and using the historic data to do that. And I'm sure probably in 2 years' time, things like the annual statutory accounts will be completed and by people, if they want to, through using Sage, Xero, QuickBooks, those accountancy packages. And you almost won't need an accountant to deal with your compliance. So we've got to evolve our services to provide the added value that we're going to do, which is about planning going forward.
There's a little bit of a gulf between that appetite to deliver advice from accountants and the appetite for it from SMEs. They don't know they want it in some cases yet. And I think that's because it's still something that's quite new for a lot of accountancy firms. So when an accountant says that they do business advice, the SMEs we interviewed, some of them interpreted that to mean still accountancy, the sort of compliance stuff. And actually what a lot of accountants, they are people that have, their own businesses are essentially startups. They've run small businesses themselves and sold them successfully, or they've been the FDs of small businesses or larger businesses. So they've got that practical business experience, and they want to advise people on growing their business, exit strategies, all of those kind of big long-term strategic things. And clients maybe don't quite know that that's on offer. In
terms of the advisory teams we've got, so there's a split between, so for example, the tax teams in there, so a lot of tax planning, which is if like data driven from an expertise point of view, but we're not reliant on great swathes of analysis on the data in question. It's a tax point, we'll then plan accordingly depending on where that is. In terms of the more data heavy aspects of the advisory work we undertake, we're looking at finance director work, management accounts, management information, moving into data analytics, and that's where a lot of the digital transformations come in.
It feels like a no-brainer almost. Why would you want to go back to wading through piles of receipts and bank statements and that kind of fusty once-a-year relationship where the only value you provide is the confirmation of the tax bill? We feel now that we're able to work with our clients much more in partnership, and help them to drive forward and succeed in growing their businesses. And it's a really collaborative thing. You know, if they do well, then we do well.